and welcome to another Full Funnel Live. We are here joining from Valencia, myself, and soon to join as well Andre from his town near Valencia. I just wanted to give you everybody a quick intro. Today we want to cover how do we fix the broken B2B playbook with full funnel marketing. So we'll explain what's going on and how basically horizontal marketing and sales planning and organization and teams kill most programs and basically results in a dry pipeline, and how to develop multifunctional, cross-functional, full funnel marketing planning and program to increase the pipeline and marketing source revenue, and obviously also the fundamentals, how to improve ICP so that you can improve your targeting and you're nurturing the right accounts and buyers. So that is the topic of today. And I see that people are joining. Also, our friend Andre came. So hello, everybody. Let us know where you're calling in from. And I'll let it over to Andre to introduce today's sponsor while you're letting us know.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, again for joining us. And I believe this is a hot topic. Almost everybody, Andre is a very strong name. Yeah, in many languages, Andre, Anjay, Andres. Yeah, so we actually came from Copenhagen last week, and we were chatting with VPs of marketing of B2B tech companies that sell high ACV products, have long sales cycles, and almost everybody told us that in some way their playbook is broken. And let's probably nail it down, right? What do we mean by broken playbook? It's an incomplete playbook that doesn't include all the stages: creating awareness, generating demand, nurturing the target accounts that are not sales ready, activating accounts that are in the market and demonstrate high engagement, then having a good client success process that it's all about shortening time to value, helping clients to get value out of your product, and then expanding the businesses, right? Most playbooks are very transactional and linear. They're all okay. Let's capture the demand from companies that are in market, or let's assume that almost all companies are in market and we just need to kind of throw arrows into multiple accounts, right, and see who will be able to capture. So that being said, this is what we are going to talk about today. And as Vlad said, we have a fantastic sponsor, our partners from DealFront. This is the leading European intent data provider. I presented DealFront multiple times, but what I love about this product, honestly, is that it combines several things in one, right? So first of all, it helps to identify anonymous web traffic on your website, so you can see which accounts are visiting your website. And if you are selling to EMEA, to European markets, they have one of the best databases, right? So the percentage of companies that are visiting your website would be way higher. Plus, they have a database, and you can immediately identify the buying committee members and create kind of a buying committee structure, so you'll know who you need to target and engage with. And lastly, they have market signals, and that basically makes it stand out. The company is called DealFront.com, and the best part, which we love about it, is that DealFront is a product-led growth company, so you can sign up for free trial and evaluate if it's a right fit for you. I would ask Vlad to drop a link in the chat so you guys can get a free trial. Now, that being said, I think let's kick off with the most common challenges that we have seen in the last 6 months. I just briefly covered everything, but let's kind of structure them.
No, but I think it's interesting to just like reflect on many conversations that we had. So obviously people reaching out to us, companies that we are working with, companies that we're training, companies that we meet at events. So we actually get an opportunity to speak to a lot of B2B companies. And there are some common challenges that are kind of definitely a symptom that something is not working right. And what we hear is the outbound in as a continuous decline. So what I mean by that is that what happened last year, in addition to outbound already being on decline for a while, what happened in addition was that we see everybody trying desperately to get some business as it was a tough year. And then AI coming. So the helps personalization, helps outreach on even more massive scale. And so what basically I heard, this was like the best description I heard from a VP of sales who said, essentially, it's not anymore about personalizing your message, because if they don't know you, there are just so many messages, they're not going to read your message if they don't know you. So it doesn't matter how well you personalize it if it's not going to be read. So it's all about actually creating the awareness and getting known, liked, and trust. Then, as we all know, marketing leads that don't convert to sales, sub 1% of those leads actually, or MQLs that convert to sales, or inbound pipeline that is kind of on decline, but then also like full of not high revenue. So a lot of lower revenue potential. This is something that we also heard a lot. And then, of course, like everybody trying not just outbound, but also demand capture, things like Google Ads, and seeing that it's just becoming too expensive and just not sufficient also to drive, sustainable growth of B2B companies, the kind of growth that I want to see. And then a lot of companies were also like, in response to everything that was happening, they were trying to experiment with demand generation, with account-based marketing, and other maybe trendy or less trendy programs, trying to fix that. But what we see very often is that, let's say 6+ months in, 6 figures plus spent on the new program, actually, unfortunately, almost seeing no results, no real pipeline, no real revenue coming from those programs. And then a big one that we also hear very often is, we are a sales and marketing, we are aligned on paper, but in practice, we rarely do something together. So these are kind of a lot of the symptoms that we see. So obviously, there is something fundamentally broken. And today, what we wanted to discuss is kind of some of the root causes, what we see is happening, why this is broken, and how to fix it. So Andre, if you'd like, let's attack the first and the biggest one about horizontal teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, and by the way, let us know, please, who has a horizontal team setup in your organization. I would quickly show you the diagram, what we mean by horizontal team setup. Give me a second. So you can see it and you'll tell us who has this. Okay, here we go. Horizontal team setup means that you have different functions that are in charge of, let's say, different business outcomes. Content team is in charge, for example, of content creation and traffic, right? So KPIs could be the traffic volume and number of articles produced, right? Or maybe social posts produced. Then you have, let's say, demand generation team, and it could be MQLs or SQLs, right? You have field, for example, field marketing. The OKRs could be a number of events, number of signups, number of MQLs again, right? SDRs, obviously, lead generation KPIs like dials, emails, in-mails, plus meetings booked, right? So everybody is in charge of one particular function, and this is linear, right? This is horizontal. Please type a plus in the chat who has this setup in their organization.
Yeah, and I can tell you that this is the most common setup that we see with organizations beyond a certain size, of course, like not with smaller companies. Yeah, it is the most common one.
Thanks, Karin. So, I mean, don't be afraid. This is a secure environment, so information is not being shared outside of this podcast room. So feel free to type plus or minus if you see a different setup. Where's the problem here, right? The problem is that by default, there is a misalignment between functions, right? Everybody is focusing on their OKRs. And the problem is, okay, if you have a content team and their KPI is to produce more articles and generating more traffic, they will will do this without thinking about consequences, right? Instead of putting as a key KPI how many target accounts are actually coming because of that article, right? How many of them are consuming that content? How many of them are moving forward, right? Are they check after this article? Are they checking high intent pages on our website, right? This should be the priority metrics to evaluate the content quality. Nobody cares about this, right? Okay, you have these KPIs because then we assume the more traffic will drive, we play the game of numbers, right? The more traffic will drive, the better outcomes we'll have, right? But then we have demand generation team, and this is where the blaming starts, right? So they can say, hey, but we were retargeting this traffic, but the traffic is not quality. It's not coming from the right region, so this is not our ICP, etc., right? And obviously, if you'll go down, then it goes down to sales. There would be some MQLs created in a traditional setup, right? And then when it comes to sales, they say, hey, like marketing is like running completely irrelevant playbooks. You guys asked us to close MQLs that are completely not sales ready, and they're not our ICP, right? Another problem here is misalignment between functions, right? So one function is not aware of what other functions are doing. So it's even not marketing and sales alignment, it's marketing and marketing misalignment. In bigger organizations, maybe it's not the case for startups, right, where the team is really small, but for the bigger organizations, even in scale-ups, we see it quite often. Content plan is like content planning, events, podcasts, ads, right? Even a list of target accounts, obviously. There is no alignment at all. So one like content department creates content that is based on keywords, right? And they might write about one topic, while demand gen team targets different accounts, right, with completely different messaging, and field event runs an event that is completely covering different topic. So how can you expect, and obviously in this case, this is what's, again, one of our clients called random acts of marketing, right? You try to do a lot and you kind of pray that something will work right out of this. And if nothing will work, the biggest problem here is as well when one of these business units hits their quota and they celebrate this quota while the rest or the entire organization is missing the revenue targets, right? Then it becomes a disaster. Then it becomes a real problem for everybody in the organization. Now, instead of this, I would show you the way how it could be solved, right? Because the premise of today's podcast is not discussing only the broken playbook, right? It's not that helpful to kind of hear in one more time that it's broken, right? But how it could be solved. It can be solved only when you have cross-functional teams. And by the way, if you guys need these infographics, just send us a message. We can send it to you. I'm not sure if everything is visible, but I mean, try maybe to enlarge your screen so you can see it. The key point is that by cross-functional teams, we mean if you allow me to make a parallel from football, right? In football, in every football team, you have goalkeepers. Let's say by default, you have 4 roles. You have goalkeepers, you have defenders, you have midfielders, and forwards, right? Ultimately, the goal is to win the game, right? On the pitch, everybody has different functions, but ultimately, the end goal of the team to win. The same is here, right? And why we have the coach here, right? Or why we have VP, right? Or why we have, for example, CMO or chief sales officer. The goal is that this is kind of a coach for the football team, right? A person who creates a program which has a strategy for specific game. Here is, soccer, of course. The same as, I said football, maybe, football is not that relevant for everybody. I'm talking about soccer, right? The key point is that you create a strategy and then everybody has own role. The same is in the cross-functional marketing team, right? You define, for example, we believe that most of you have quota programs, right? You define a key motion for that quota. Next, you define what are the, obviously we'll skip for now the GTM planning, right? The goals, what we are going to achieve. Let's assume this is what we already have, right? Next, you define what would be the best programs and who will be in charge of what in this when we'll run these specific programs. And this involves everybody: RevOps, sales, demand gen, product marketing, right? Content. Everybody starts planning it together. Everybody creates a plan and everybody knows, okay, this is a list of target accounts, right? Our goal is to drive pipeline for this quarter, but also create future pipeline, right? So create a list of engaged accounts that might be converted in the next 3-6 months. What would be the best activities? And then literally this team becomes this team should be evaluated by the pipeline created and by the revenue, and for the future pipeline, right, by the number of engaged accounts that were created out of this program. It's not possible to immediately make this shift in the organization, no way, because I assume the first question would be, hey, but let's say we have a big organization, how can we immediately make this change? It's not possible. Start really small. If you guys remember, once at the end of the last year, we hosted an episode about pilot ABM program, right? We explained the way how you can set up a small scoped pilot. The same is here. Like literally for every change or for every new motion in your organization, you need to start with a small scoped pilot. The same is here. Define just maybe 2-3 people. Maybe start really simple. Maybe not involve sales right off the bat. Start with a simple marketing and marketing alignment, right? Involve product and involve content, right? Or if you have field function, involve, let's say, content and field. Let's say it's 3 functions: demand gen, content, and field. And all together define, okay, what should be our motion, right? I'm as a content team, I'm going to write about this and that. Product shares with you. These are like literally we have defined that this is like the jobs to be done, or the most popular jobs to be done, our product helps with, right? These are the most common challenges. You can quickly, without involving sales in the playbook, the first step you can do is just quickly validate the challenges. Hey, I spoke with product marketing. They shared with me these jobs to be done. What challenges do you hear on your sales calls related to these jobs to be done? You collect this feedback, right? Next, all together with demand team and with content, you define what pieces of content are we going to create out of it, what ads can be run, right? What event maybe makes sense to host. As simple as that. Next step, you need to implement a feedback loop, right? Which that would be 2 loops. First with sales, right? First of all, you validate with them. Can you please check, are we addressing well the challenges that you shared with us, right? That are related, that you shared on the recent call. That's already the first step to improve the broken playbook, right? You make a small ask, and they already see that you become a collaborative function, right? You want to help sales. And the second step would be the feedback loops with customers, but we are going to cover it later. Let us know, please, in the chat if it makes sense, if it's clear. Type plus, please, if that makes sense to you. I mean, how cross-functional teams help you to fix the broken playbook, and how to initiate the small change. And feel free to type minus and ask questions. We're going to cover them anyhow. So the second point would be, the second point that we are going to cover would be the account cluster programs, right, Vlad? So how to kind of run together the cluster programs that help you to achieve the desired goals.
So just to kind of go from where Andrei explained how to organize a cross-functional team to an actual program that will help you really bring all these different functions together under one program. So Andrei mentioned you have product marketing, you have content, you have demand gen, you have field, for example, or a regional marketing team, depends on how you're organized. But essentially you have like these core functions, and you have an understanding of what are the most priority or the highest priority, let's say, jobs to be done that we see within our target accounts. So validating that with, let's say, a subject matter expert, something that I'm not sure if you have mentioned this, but this is a very, very important role to have on your team, or to have somebody from the company play that, and you can collaborate with them closely. Usually these might be like pre-sales people, maybe it's like a customer success. If they are dealing with large accounts and they know them intimately, they will be able to provide you this information next to, obviously, talking to sales, studying the current deals and all of these things. So you have, let's say, the top use cases or the top jobs to be done. Now we start talking about an account cluster as a group of accounts that have that share similar challenges and have the same or the similar jobs to be done, to simplify things, right? So let's say we are selling some sort of, I think we might mention that same example later, so I'll use the same example. Let's say we are selling some sort of a learning solution, corporate learning solution. There's so many different, ways in which buyers are acquiring learning solutions for many different use cases, right? Now, maybe what we see is where we really can provide a competitive advantage, and we really see the biggest deals, the highest win rates, the highest ACVs, right? Is, let's say, with companies that have just gone through merger and acquisition and need to onboard the new employees of the brands that they've acquired. They need to onboard them on the company culture and need to onboard them on the processes, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's a very specific job to be done. That's a very specific situation. And by the way, it's really cool because now I also have a criterion that I can use to actually go and find those accounts, similar accounts, or look through the accounts that I have either on account list from sales or source for marketing that have had, let's say, a recent merger and acquisition. So that could be like one cluster of accounts. Okay, so let me share with you how we could organize a cluster-based program on one diagram. You know that we love our diagrams, so I'll do that in a second. And that is not good. I will have to do that another okay, like this. Okay, it's there. So what you see on this diagram, and for the people just listening, I'll give an explanation. It's kind of like 5 core processes or 5 core pieces of the puzzle, parts of the program. And the first one on the top is evergreen demand generation capture. And what we mean by that is simply, if you look at that account cluster, these are the accounts. Going back to the example, let's say that went through the merger and acquisition. Well, what we want to do is like figure out what are the top challenges that these companies are facing. Why do these challenges happen? What do the companies normally do about these challenges, and what they should actually do? So asking these kind of questions, and either of customers or together, or I would say together with your SME, subject matter expert, to really understand what are their top bleeding neck problems and challenges, and also like dive a little bit deeper into what is causing those, what are the symptoms, how we should deal with them, and how the companies are actually trying to do that. That will be the basis of your messaging and content that you need to create. That is why you want to have all these roles on that team, so that you're able to quickly iterate and create that content, but also, like Andre mentioned, maybe run events or anything that is appropriate, because at the end, what we want to create here is a multi-channel program. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So anyhow, so you have some sort of demand generation. And what's happening there is that you have some accounts that are ready to buy, that are aware of your brand. They know how you can help them. They understand that. They've studied maybe your website or otherwise, and they're raising their hand. If they're raising their hand, this is what you can see here on the right. Yeah, here on the right-hand side. Let me just make this window a little bit smaller, and then I'll be able to show you. Here, this you want to get out of the way. So the simplest thing that you want to do here is just you want to let them book as quickly as possible. Of course, they might need to go through some qualification, but using some tools like Chili Piper or any other tool that will help you automatically kind of qualify them and then book them with the right AE. That's the ideal scenario, because you want to optimize there. The KPI would be like time to value, how quickly they can actually understand, get their questions answered, and understand how you can help them in a very specific way. So this would be like one scenario. But then you have a bunch of other accounts that maybe not ready, but are highly engaged. Maybe you have also some accounts that are coming through referrals. Maybe you have some accounts that actually sales says, okay, these are our high priority accounts. Now, should you just like go through all of them? No, you should actually evaluate what do we know about those accounts? What is the level of engagement? And the way that we think about it is just basically, and I'm not going to go in a lot of details because we had a whole episode about that, how to generate revenue now. If you check that one out, we really went into details on how to break the accounts into 3 different groups. But essentially, what you want to understand is, are they likely to become a sales qualified opportunity in this quarter? Or are they kind of future there? Maybe there's some engagement, maybe there's some indication that I have a need, maybe there's some relationship, but we don't know enough. We are not really sure if they have an active need. We're not really sure, we don't have maybe good relations. Maybe we don't have a good relationship there to be able to actually prospect and check and validate whether they have a need. So they're kind of future high pipeline. So this is the first group. So basically what the goal there is to nurture and develop these relationships, but also to find out as much as possible. And here is again where the multifunctional team is working together. So if you look at the prioritization of accounts, this is something that we like to do in pipeline review meetings, like very practically sitting together with sales, looking at these accounts as they're coming in, and then prioritizing and planning them. Then when it comes to like future pipeline, there both marketing and sales have their role. So marketing can run cluster-based programs. So again, coming back to my example of, having that, let's say merger and acquisition, having the challenge, like talking about these challenges, sharing content, organizing events, whatever it is that you're doing. These are like 1 to few programs. So you're involving all these accounts from future pipeline, but you're not like spending a lot of time per account. It's like 1 to few actions. But also sales is also trying to engage buyers from those target accounts. Again, it doesn't have to be like just focused all the time just on those accounts, but it's whenever we have, let's say, inviting to those events, sharing out content, trying to engage them on social, etc. Again, the goal here is you want to basically move them from future pipeline to the pipeline. They're highly likely to have a pipeline in this quarter. So the second group here on the picture for those who can see it. Okay. And the KPIs here, and this is like really truly marketing and sales, like shared playbook. And the KPIs here, you could like look at, for example, account engagement. I'm not such a big fan of account engagement. I'm actually like much better, like how many conversations did we manage to to generate with those accounts, or how many accounts did we manage to generate conversations? By conversation, I mean, it can be like a simple email or a two-way email or a LinkedIn or other social community chat, where you're actually finding something out. You're not chatting about the weather, but you're actually chatting about their challenges, about their priorities. So basically like finding out the information that will help you understand, they do have a need. This is the specific use case that I have. This is the specific challenge that they have. Now I can go into more one-on-one play, which is the next group, right? And the next group, the account, we call it account development for high odds accounts. So we evaluate them to be like high odd to become a pipeline in this quarter. So there we like really focus and develop, because we know sufficiently about that. We have some relationships with some of the buyers. Our goal here is to really dive deeper and activate those accounts, basically turn them into, let's say, SQLs and later into SQL, so sales qualified opportunities, by basically personalizing one-on-one our messaging content, connecting to other buyers, and basically really focusing on them to create that engagement, to create more conversations, and book discovery calls. And so here, your early leading indicator would be, let's say, account to discovery call ratio. And the final KPI that we'd be working on is obviously things like pipeline, right? So we like to measure account to pipeline ratio, which gives you an effectiveness, or how effective is your program. Let's say out of all, like I've prioritized here, let's say 100 100 is too much, but 20 accounts. Out of those 20 accounts, how many did become actually pipeline? And we like to see these numbers anywhere between 5 to 15. So 5 to 15% of target accounts are becoming pipeline. And then another important, or another key metric, is pipeline velocity and eventually sales velocity, which is to say, basically looking at things like, okay, what is the win rate of those accounts? What is the deal size of those accounts? What is the sales cycle with those accounts? This will give you all the details that you need to know to evaluate whether this program is effective and where you might need to tweak. And then the final group here is where you have actually generated maybe that meeting with the AI, with an AE, so account executive. They're working to create an opportunity. AI, not AI, please, no more AI. And potentially here, marketing is supporting them with buyer enablement, content, and maybe helping connect to the other buyers. But essentially here is really where you're focused more with sales on creating that opportunity. So just to summarize, you need a multifunctional team because you need to be able to generate demand for that cluster, to develop relevant content, to distribute that content. So you need field and demand and content creation. You need the SDR function or business development, whatever you call it, to develop relationships with the buyers, to get the information that you need. You need the subject matter expert involved because you need to be able to make sure, and Andre will talk more about it, that your messaging content are actually relevant to the cluster, that it's not based on some assumptions that are not true. And then finally, you need a very good agreements and collaboration also with the account executive, or account executives, depending whether you're working in a territory or not, so that the moment there is a potential opportunity to start a conversation with them, okay, what is the best way to approach this? You need to be able to basically not just hand over a quote unquote lead, but actually work together on that transition to that next stage, which is the opportunity development. Hope that was clear. Let me know if you have any questions. If it wasn't clear, happy to dive in.
Yeah, that was a question from Peyton about account scoring. You're absolutely right that it's not like automated lead scoring in Marketo, and sales always have a different vision of how to score accounts. So if you don't mind, guys, we'll finish the collateral, and then I move this question to Q&A. So I will share with you account scoring template that we use with every client, so you'll see a real example, okay? And before continuing the topic, I would love to make another quick announcement. Probably some of you have already seen that in a few weeks we're going to host our 5th annual Fullfunnel Summit. It's free to attend. I will drop a link. So if you didn't grab a ticket, it would be a good time to get it. We have fantastic speakers again from Refine Labs, from Pavilion, Demand Base, 6 Sense, Hockey Stack. So it's always packed with value. If you didn't get a ticket, the link is in the chat. You can grab a free ticket. And by the way, if you have already signed up, please type plus in the chat. Would love to see how many of you have already signed up. And if you didn't hear about the summit, type minus as well. Would love to see.
Yeah,
if we did a bad awareness program. So minus if you didn't hear, and plus if you have already signed up. And while you are sharing, so let's move to the next part, right? I have now, okay. Vlad have described the approach of creating the cluster-based program. Now, the interesting part that even if you follow that philosophy, right, even if you try to implement this model, there is another bottleneck that a lot of GTM teams deal with. And this bottleneck is all about having false assumptions about ICP challenges. So if you don't mind, I will quickly share with you my Picasso style drawing. As you know, sometimes I don't have time to create a proper infographic, so I just draw it by hand. Here is the idea, right? When it comes to assumed ICP challenge, company sits together and everybody says, hey, I know this is the challenge, right? So let's kind of create all our collateral about that challenge. And then the company creates everything, messaging, right? Ads, content, outbound scripts. And at the end of the day, they are wondering, right? Okay, that was a collaborative effort, right? But nothing. We kind of don't see any results out of it. Still, we have the low conversion, we have ghost and leads, we have low win rates, right? We see longer sales cycles, we have high CPL, right? We have miserable time on page, so for example, for content, and sales still complain about low reply rates. Why, right? If that was a collaborative joint effort. And the problem is that a lot of challenges, they are not really validated with the customers. That's this is something that we often see at scale ups and enterprise organizations. Let me share with you one practical example so you guys can see how it works. So imagine a learning experience platform, right? Enterprise learning experience platform. It's a platform where you can create educational programs for, let's say, for your team, right? And then track if they consume the content, how they implement content, etc., right? So typical example of ICP, enterprise organizations, industry agnostic, right? Who are the target buyers? Target buyers are usually L&D managers or HRs, right? They take care about team upskilling. Now, assumed challenge, which is based on our product value. Because we are learning experience platform, we assume that our buyers want to grow their employees, and just because they want to grow or they want to upskill their team members, right? They need a platform that will enable upskilling. So we solve this challenge, right? And then we create the entire collateral around it. Now let me share with you three practical examples. And this is a real case study. I won't be able to name that company, unfortunately, because of NDA, but that's a real case study to give you an idea. So the first ICP and the core challenge. A corporation actively acquires smaller companies and needs to decrease the onboarding time for the new team members, right? Make sure that these new team members understand the new corporate policy, the corporate standards, and make sure that the time to value, or basically time to full onboarding, is really short. Completely different use case, completely different challenges, right? And the buyers, even the buyers could be the same. They're not really caring about upskilling at this moment, and definitely not caring about the learning experience. What they care about is making sure that the acquired company start performing the way as their headquarters, right? The second ICP and the core challenge. Company regularly changes leaders instead of growing internal managers, right? There is a culture where they assume, okay, like our managers are young or not mature enough or don't have enough skills, right? So we need to kind of hire an experienced manager outside of our organization, right? And of course, that leads to talent disengagement, right? Who wants to work for a company where, like, probably you perform well, right? You hit your targets regularly, but then instead of getting a promotion and higher payroll, right, you see that they always hire outside. Obviously, this is kind of demotivates the team members, right? So the problem, and that creates as well, it creates a turnover, right? So people are leaving the company. And this is kind of the challenge. The goal is to create internal growth programs so the current managers become VP or C plus members of the organization, right? And the third ICP and the core challenge: a company has agent leaders who have been working for decades, right? And imagine that marketing is going through disruption, or their revenue is falling down, and it's clear that the old approach is not working anymore, but the let's say leaders who were here for decades, they are not willing to change, right? They might be stubborn, maybe they are already looking for the retirement and don't want to make any changes in the organization. And you need kind of find a way to change that experience, right? And this, as you can see, this is like completely different, completely different use cases, right? Even the buyers are the same, they have completely different use cases, and each of these use cases by itself becomes a cluster, what Vlad described, right? And inside that cluster, obviously, I just gave you an overview of a bigger challenge, right? If you'll try to kind of have a discussion around of each of these challenges, that would be root reasons, that would be symptoms, right? The ways how this customer is trying to solve this, right? Why this is happening, the best practices, etc. When you have this discussion with your team, with sales, with SMEs, with product, right? And when you'll discuss how can we identify these accounts, what are the tangible criteria that tell us that the account has this need, right? Then you create a you turn the odds into your favor, right? You'll be able to define the right accounts and you become relevant to them. Suddenly, your content starts resonating. Suddenly, your ads start resonating with this account. Suddenly, your landing pages start resonating, and suddenly, outreach message starts resonating with these target accounts, right? This is really essential. But aside from this, there is one more thing that we would love to cover. It's a feedback loop. Even if you have this discussion among your team and you're all SMEs, right? You have years of experience. Still, you must validate it with your clients. I mentioned in the beginning feedback loop, so I think we kind of need to end up this topic of the broken playbook with the feedback loop implementation, right, Vlad?
Yeah, I think that would be the last one, but there is one quick one that I wanted to share, and I'll give it over to you about the feedback, because you created this one. The Picasso was a good one, right? The one that you shared today, and I really liked it and would like you to explain. But before we dive into the feedback loops, which are absolutely essential and something that unfortunately not a lot of companies are doing, just to like to share a quick one without any diagrams this time about incomplete playbooks. And I just want to explain very briefly what I mean by that. Essentially, what we see very often is, and I think it's very also related with the fact that you might have these siloed functions. So you might have an event, you might have, field running events, for example, or webinars, then you might have some content being created, etc. But I see a lot of teams leaving a lot of value on the table. And let me just share just a very practical example, right? So let's say you go on an event, you organize an event, and it's like a lot of work. Everybody who has ever organized an event, they know this. And especially if it's a live event, and then you even have international audience, you're traveling there, like it's like a huge investment. And it's also a great opportunity. You have these people there, you can network with them. It's like just amazing how well it can work. But then what we see very often is like you have an event, you take some pictures, then you go on LinkedIn, you share pictures of the event, everybody's hugging and smiling, and you say, hey, we had a great event. What a missed opportunity. So just sticking with the event as an example, let me just like give you a couple of ideas of how you could leverage just one event and quote unquote complete the playbook. So, and then I think you will understand what I mean by incomplete playbooks. So remember, we are doing this in the context of an account cluster. So let's say, again, sticking with the same example, corporate learning, let's say that use case, whatever, merger and acquisition, onboarding new people from the acquired brands. Okay, imagine that you're organizing an event specifically around that use case. You're inviting all these target accounts. Well, first of all, like usually the way that the invitations are sent out is just like, okay, we're emailing on an email list. Maybe we're doing some paid promo, but that's basically it. Executives or sales, they help you a little bit. Maybe they take your post and then they just reshare it on their profile. And that's pretty much it, what we see very often happen. But actually, what if each and every sales rep went through the network and so, okay, do I have any accounts currently in the pipeline that have similar challenge? Do I have any accounts that I'm connected to or I'm working on and trying to develop that have the same challenge? I can extend them a personalized personal invite. Why not even just like ask everybody in the team who is connected to those target accounts, and you can like easily find that out on LinkedIn to just invite them, right? So that's like a first missed opportunity. You can really get much more people, relevant people on the event through one-to-one invites, personalized one-to-one invites. But then actually the interesting things start to happen, because let's say you sit down with your SMEs and your sales and you ask them like, what are the key things that we need to know about those accounts in order to create a personalized offer, in order to be able to sell to them? And you find out that there are like 3 key pieces of information that you need to know. For example, you need to know about their maybe engagement of the new employees, or maybe you need to find out something more specific. Doesn't really matter. But okay, so now these people have registered for an event. So I mean, actually, that's what Andre did. We had this event in Copenhagen. He mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. He just simply reached out to everybody who registered and asked, okay, why did you register? What were you trying to learn? And we are going to discuss these things. What do you think? What is your feedback? What is being missed? So basically, you can start learning about their challenges, and people open up. Like, how many people did respond there, Andre? I think it was like dozens.
I would say a half.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that half of the people have started. So not only Andre started to build a relationship with those people and increase the chance of them responding to him later if he followed up after the event with relevant information. But now we gather this information. Obviously, we use this information to prepare a better event, but also to have more relevant context. But it's actually account insights. Like these are if you ask them the right questions, you can already start. Okay, they have a priority. Oh, are you implementing ABM? Yes. Okay, they have a priority. Maybe they have some specific challenges. This is like golden insight. Then during the event, you can also organize, instead of just doing like monologues, you can organize some workshops where you can again engage the audience, get more insights, build relationships. You can do follow-ups after the events. You can create specific content that you can use as a follow-up via content hubs. There's like so many different things that you can do. So always be thinking about who are all of these events, who are all of these accounts that I want to, could be relevant to invite to this event, or to share this piece of content with, or whatever the action is. It doesn't have to be an event. It could be like a new piece of content that you can share out. It could be like whatever campaign that you're launching. But then think also about what is the information that I want to get from those accounts. Then think about those accounts. In which stage are they? In which group? If you remember, we grouped them in 3, like, are they future pipeline, are they current accounts, etc. So how can I use this maybe event piece of content specifically for that account, knowing where they are and what I want to achieve with them, etc. So think about how can I close the loop or complete the playbook, and not just like do an event and then look, okay, share a few pictures and say, okay, what is the next event that I need to organize? Or create a article or white paper, whatever piece of content you're creating. Hopefully you're also creating some other more interactive pieces of content, or just like LinkedIn posts. And like, okay, how can we share this? How can we get more of that? Instead of just like creating this and then just not spending any time on distribution and just moving on to the next, and not even like looking whether it worked or it didn't work. Which actually brings me to the last point, and I think very important point is, okay, you're doing all of these activities, you're trying to complete the playbooks, but the question is this program working? Is what we are doing working? Is it relevant for our customers? Yes or no? And I think Andre has a fantastic way to explain this.
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of times the importance of feedback loops, right? Everybody have heard about feedback loops from the startup world. It's all about the product improvements, right? But it's kind of obvious that it makes sense for the product improvements, but when it comes to improving your marketing and sales programs, nobody is doing this. I mean, at least I don't know companies that are doing this, right? And literally, the feedback loops, like I said, you plan the program before starting running ads, right? Have you ever tried to validate if that copy resonates, right? Why not asking sales to validate it with their prospects that are on the early stages of the pipeline, which is another like it's non-sales but a good touch point, right? So can you provide me feedback on this? You write a content, why not try to invite in your, again, prospects or target accounts or customers to collaborate to that content and also provide the feedback on it? Because if it doesn't resonate with a specific set of customers that belong to this specific cluster, how can you expect that it will resonate with others, right? So this is really important. And when it comes to feedback loop, you have three types of buyers. You have economical buyers, you have champions, and you have power users. These are all completely different people, right? With completely different OKRs and basically objectives in the organization and jobs to be done. All organizations usually try to sell to economical buyers, or to the decision makers, right? But really, these people, they don't care that much about your product. They care more on the business impact, right? Business impact and the value your product delivers, while particularly your product impacts the life of champions and power users, people who are actively using your product on a daily basis. And champions, usually these are the people who are leading the power users, right? And this is exactly what you need to know. Your content would be addressing the challenges, mostly the challenges of these two groups, right? So this is really essential. Embed this, validate, get feedback. Ads, like I showed you on my drawing, right? Ads, outreach scripts, right? I like, if we do the script, right, you can simply ask a question. If I was sending you this message, and let's assume you are problem aware and vendor aware, how likely you would respond to this message, right? Fantastic feedback loop. If no, they would say, you can immediately ask why. What didn't I articulate well, right? And they provide you invaluable feedback. So this way you can improve ads, landing pages, your messaging, right? You don't quite often, there are a lot of fantastic platforms like Winter, for example, for message testing, right? But you can do it even without Winter. You can do this more proactive approach and implement, you can see the loop. Your marketing and sales teams, then your existing buyers and your pipeline, right? Your potential customers. And these insights should be cross-shared all the time. This is the endless, this is the evergreen approach of improving your marketing function, right? So that's it for today. We kind of tried to cover everything, and we are now going to cover the additional questions that you guys asked. As you can see, I told you that we'll try to incorporate all the questions in this collateral. You asked questions like how teams could implement Fullfunnel program with a really tiny team, right? How to improve collaboration between marketing and sales and SMEs. So we try to kind of cover all of this in 50 minutes. Let us know, please, if that was helpful and if you did get answers to your questions. And I mean, well, again, type plus, please, or whatever, provide any feedback. And feel free to ask other questions. Meanwhile, I would love to cover a question from Peyton. It was all about to qualify, are you doing lead score? And if so, what does that look like? Sales always defines that different from marketing. That's absolutely true. So let me show you the process that we implement with the clients. Give me a second. Here we go. Okay. So this is the account prioritization model. Obviously, for every business, you'll need to adjust it, right? It's just kind of a skeleton that you can use. When we do the scoring, and we do the scoring only for one specific reason, to prioritize the accounts and to define highly engaged accounts. Literally, I don't know any team that has enough resources to cover all the potential accounts, right? And especially if you have a good demand generation function, or if you're a PLG company, right, it's absolutely not possible. Maybe if you don't have a good demand generation and you have only, like 3 to 5 visits of target accounts per week, right, then maybe it's not a big deal for you. You can prioritize them all. But on the surface, like if you have a lot of accounts, and especially if sales are building their territory list, that would help to prioritize whom they should go after. We pay attention to a few things. So first of all is the revenue potential, right? What is the revenue potential of accounts that we are pursuing, right? Is it worth to kind of proactively engage, nurture, and build relationship with these accounts? Because if it doesn't pay off, then these accounts should be activated through, let's say, demand generation function, right? Next, relationship. We always prioritize accounts where we have a good relationship. Maybe ex-client joined that company, right? Maybe you met somebody from that company at a field event, conference, whatever, right? Maybe some of your partners know somebody in that company. Maybe they belong to the same community or association your company belongs to. Next, product need evidence, right? You do account research. What are the signals that tell you that this company has a need or might have a need in your product, right? What is the evidence that they might have challenges your product solves? And ultimately, engagement and intent. Obviously, I mentioned in the beginning, a lot of sales teams complain that they deal with lack of account awareness, right? Most of accounts are not vendor aware, right? The key point here is that we want to make sure that sales would actually engage with accounts that are already vendor aware. That way you can expect high response rate, high reply rates, right? And obviously that boosts motivation of sales, and they believe that marketing is doing a good job in terms of account awareness, right? So you can pay attention to different signals like signed up for cluster. Maybe if you are running live events like this one, right? This is not the webinar, it's just a regular episode of our Fullfunnel Live. So maybe you can track the sign-ups for these live events, right? Sign-ups for your newsletters, engagement with ads, visits of high-intent pages on your website. And literally, you build this scoring model. I am just sharing this as an example. So you define these different triggers and you assign different scores. Are really optional here, right? You just pay more, you give more ways to the or more scores, right, to the more prioritative criteria for you, and you can replace it with percentage if you will, right? Basically, why we are doing this, the more signals we have, right, and the strongest signals we have, for example, like relationship and product need evidence, the higher is our likelihood to create an opportunity with this account. Ultimately, the only one reason why we are doing this, we want to define accounts with a high probability to be converted into sales opportunity, right? And to prioritize these accounts to focus our limited resources. If you need this template, guys, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I will share you. And Andrzej asked another question about ABM fundamentals. That's absolutely sure. You need to have ABM fundamentals, and we have a great article about this. It's called ABM strategy. So I'm dropping a link here and you can guys read about the ABM strategy. But literally, it's not even about ABM, to be honest. It's what we spoke today. It's not about ABM. It's all about fixing the broken playbook. The broken playbook where companies assume that all companies are in market, or that there are a lot of companies that are in market and all we need to do is just kind of throw some content, show some ads, right, run some events, and sales would do some outreach, right? This is broken. Trying to capture the demand and activate accounts without creating brand awareness, without generating the demand, without proactive, without implementing feedback loops, right? Without joint collaboration between marketing and sales. This is what we mean by broken playbooks. That kind of leads to decline in pipeline and revenue. And we shared with you multiple examples on how teams can work together, how to create a cluster program, right? How to implement feedback loops, and ultimately how to prioritize other accounts for more proactive engagement. Hope that helps. Next week, we are going to run another episode for you guys, which would be all about the all-bound marketing. So we didn't announce it yet, but I'm dropping a link here in the chat. So next Thursday, 4 p.m. Central European Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Sign up and hope to see you in 1 week. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. Cheers. Take care.
Thank you.